Man's eternal quest for immortality is very natural and fundamental to the human species. Pulitzer Prize winner William Sayorin said, "Everybody has got to die, but I've always believed an exception would be made in my case. Now what?" Believing in life after death can be seen by some as escapism of the potentially dark truth of reality. Yet, over the past century, there's been an increasing amount of evidence in favour of death not being the end of the road for us. Reincarnation is one such theory, believed by approximately 1.3 billion people worldwide, highly concentrated in South and East Asia. Before we dive into some of the evidence suggesting the possibility of reincarnation, let's first understand what it is and how it works from a Vedic perspective. The Atma, or the soul, is believed to be centered around the heart, and it is not material in nature but spiritual in nature. In Vedic literature, the word spiritual is just the complement of the word material, i.e., anything spiritual is something that isn't material. One of the properties of the Atma is that it gives rise to consciousness. In the book The Human Brain by Professor John Pfeiffer, he notes that your body does not contain a single one of the molecules it contained 7 years ago. Every 7 years, your whole body is different. The self, however, our real identity, remains unchanged. Despite all the changes to the material body, consciousness as a symptom of the Atma remains unchanged. You still refer to yourself as the same person 10 years ago, even though the cells in your body are completely different. The commonality between you now and 10 years ago is threaded by your true self. So in a way, we are reincarnating even within this lifetime, as we have a number of different bodies housing our permanent soul. At the time of death, our soul has to move on to another body. However, the Atma is so habituated that it naturally resists eviction from the material body, but must be forced out by the laws of nature. You may now wonder, what actually affects the new body our soul takes in our next life? The Bhagavad Gita mentions that the mind is the mechanism that directs the soul to a new body. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits the body, that state he will attain without fail. Everything we have thought and done in our life makes an impression on the mind, and the sum total of all these impressions influences our final thoughts at death. According to the quality of these thoughts, material nature awards us a suitable body. According to the Bhagavad Gita, humans who do not inquire about their non-physical higher nature are compelled by the laws of karma to continue in the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, sometimes appearing as humans, sometimes as animals, or plants, or even insects. Our existence in the material world is due to the multiple karmic reactions of this and previous lives, and the human body provides the only loophole through which the materially conditioned soul can escape. Okay, so this is a cool theory, but where is the evidence?
You got me, but I shall be reincarnated. You can't kill a Hindu! Help me, Jesus!
Dr. Ian Stevenson was a renowned psychiatrist and professor at the University of Virginia. For over 40 years, he investigated cases of children who spontaneously reported memories of past lives. He meticulously documented over 2,500 such cases, traveling the world to interview children and verify their claims. Stevenson's approach was rigorous and scientific. He wouldn't simply accept a child's story at face value. He'd cross-reference their memories with historical records, interview family members of the deceased person they claimed to be, and even looked for physical markings or birthmarks that matched. One such fascinating case is that of James Leninger. At the age of 2, James began having nightmares about being a World War II pilot named James Huston, who crashed in the Pacific Ocean. James's parents were interviewed extensively about their son's statements. They attested to the accuracy of his details and expressed their amazement at his seemingly inexplicable knowledge.
So I started to ask him some questions. What happened to your plane? It got shot. Well, who shot your plane? The Japanese. Well, how do you know it was the Japanese? And I think he said that night, the big red sun. Where could that come from? How could he articulate something that specific? So I kept going. I said, well, where did your plane come from? And he said, a boat. Did your boat have a name? And he said, yes, Natoma. Here was this history of USS Natoma Bay, CBE 62. This ship supported the Battle of Iwo Jima.
It was, what can you say?
It was a complete mystery. Where could he have gotten that information? How could he say something like that? I had a hard time believing it.
I remember one time where James was talking about his airplane, and Bruce had asked him, do you remember what kind of plane you flew? And he said it was a Corsair.
The Corsair was fast, agility was very good.
I went to the internet, started to do some research, found out that there was no Corsair that flew off in Natoma Bay. And since there was no Corsair on Natoma Bay, all these memories, to be polite, it was just baloney. And all of a sudden, there's a picture of James M. Houston Jr. standing in front of a Corsair.
It was huge.
James M. Houston Jr., before he was assigned to Natoma Bay, was in a Navy squadron that flew Corsairs.
Of course, Stevenson's work is not without its critics. Some argue that children's past life memories can be explained by cultural influences, parental suggestions, or even active imaginations. Others point out the difficulty of verifying historical details, especially in cases from remote parts of the world. So, does Stevenson's research prove reincarnation? That's a question each individual must answer for themselves. But there's no doubt that his work raises compelling questions about the nature of consciousness and the possibility of life after death. Let me know your thoughts on reincarnation down in the comments below. Please subscribe, like and share, it really helps me out, and take care.